The nature of warfare is changing and the world is learning how in the battlefields of Ukraine. Yes, there are troops involved, but they're not the ones causing maximum damage. Drones are. Russia is using Iranian drones to strike Kiev. Ukraine is said to have launched attacks deep inside Russia using drones. In Moscow, on the Kremlin. In all these cases, drones were involved. They're being used at sea too. Let me show you how. These are naval drones. Ukraine used them to strike Russian ships. And the world is watching all of this. Drones may be the future of war. More and more countries are adding them to their arsenal, including India. Drones, in fact, are on India's defense shopping list, and one compelling seller is making a hard pitch. The United States of America. They want to sell drones to India, and they want to secure a deal as early as next week. That's when Prime Minister Modi will be on a state visit to the US. Washington is working on a weapons deal, and this is what it wants to sell India. The MQ-9B Sea Guardian drone. It's made by an American company called General Atomics. And India knows this drone well. In the past, New Delhi has leased some of these machines. The Indian Navy uses this drone for intelligence gathering. And now they're being asked to buy it. The proposal is to sell India dozens of drones. They haven't finalized the exact number yet, not that we know of. But one report says India could buy as many as 30 drones if the deal goes through. And what's the total value of the deal? $2 to $3 billion. Washington is pushing hard for it. Reports say the US wants India to cut through the red tape and seal the deal. And since India already leases the drone, there is no question about testing or debating its utility. The Sea Guardian is a surveillance drone. The Indian Navy uses it to monitor the Indian Ocean region. The drone can fly for 30 hours and fly as far as 5,000 nautical miles. It operates at a height of 40,000 feet. It has also been used in the standoff with China. In the year 2020, when China deployed the PLA near Indian borders, the Sea Guardian drone was used in the Himalayas for surveillance to track the build-up on the Chinese side. And not just India, its Quad partners also use this drone. The US, of course, uses it, considering it's an American-made machine. But so do armies of Australia and Japan in some form or the other. So it makes sense for India to acquire this drone. Then what's the holdup? The cost. It's steep. Remember, this is not a new proposal from the US. The Trump administration made it too. They tried to sell the very same drone to India. They almost had a deal, 22 drones for $2 to $3 billion, which is very similar to what's being discussed right now. But it did not materialize. And a big reason for that was the cost. Some officials in India objected to the price tag, and ultimately they decided to lease it instead of buying it. So will this time be different? Is India now prepared to buy the same machines? It's hard to say at the moment. Also, cost is not the only consideration for India. Remember, the government is pushing for Make in India. Even in the deals it signs with foreign players, there is a Make in India component, and that applies here too. Reports say India wants some parts of this drone to be manufactured here, and that is still being discussed. We'll get more clarity once Prime Minister Modi meets President Biden next week, but these negotiations do reflect a larger trend, a shift in India's approach in defense procurements. There is a clear focus on diversification. It is reducing its dependence on Russian arms. Earlier, 69% of India's arms came from Russia. Now this number has fallen to below 50%. India is buying defense equipment from multiple players now: France, America, Israel. And deals from these countries have been on the rise. Let me show you more numbers, in fact. Defense procurements from the US have grown by more than 500%. From France, almost 500%. And from Israel, the growth has been 175%. So Russia might still be the #1 player, but its dominance in the Indian market is shrinking. And from India's perspective, it's a good trend. It's always a good strategy to not keep all your eggs in one basket. Plus, Russia's resources are stretched. It is fighting a war that may not be over anytime soon. Its defense deliveries are being delayed. For instance, the delivery of the S-400 missile defense system to India. It's running late. The US senses an opportunity here. It believes it can seize the moment and enable India's pivot away from Russian arms. But for India, too, this is an opportunity to play its cards right. As the biggest weapons importer in the world, India should play this game on its own terms, settle for nothing but the best, and make no compromises on the Make in India policy.